All right, we're live and we're back, and this is exactly what I was alluding to yesterday. And yes, I'm wearing the same shirt. Not the same shirt. I've got about 30 different shirts like this that I wear on a daily basis. So just so you guys know, this is a clean shirt. It is the same color as the one yesterday. For anybody that's keeping track, not financial advice, for educational purposes only. And I said, hey, yesterday, if you want to see the ES push higher and start making new all-time highs, what has to happen? I said the SMH and the Mag 7 have to be on the same page. And guess what happened today? You heard it here first yesterday. The SMH and the Mag 7 are on the same page. Very intriguing. Here we are on our weekly and monthly levels, and I'm giving that to you for free today. We're towards the end of the week, so these will be updated next week, and they will just be for my paid. From a monthly, if you're trying to grab these, screenshot them, you can do what you need to do, and then we will try to assist you from there. But I put in the new Fibonacci retracement levels that I've been talking about in between my main levels, my main calculations. As always, the main levels are the decision point, but we start finding resistances and other things and bounces off of these levels that help tremendously. So what happened today? SMH said, hey, we're good to go. PPI was good. And we take off up 1.8%, running into that 618 over here, 382 on the weekly. So off of the pivot above R1, you start looking at higher targets. These will be some intermediate resistance levels that you can take note of. This one looks like it hit within about 20 cents so far, but SMH is running, so the NASDAQ's running. Well, what else is running? Let's just run through it. Apple up 1%. And remember yesterday, these were all red, right? NVIDIA up 0.75%. Google 0.8%. Meta up 1.85%. As you can see, the story goes on. Tesla, I think Amazon. Yeah. So all the mags are saying, hello, friend, we're back. And all of the semiconductor chips are saying, hey, we're back. MU up another 4.5% today. Get some of that because, like I said, that was the biggest problem it was having was you'd have yesterday you had tech stocks, all the mags were down, and MU or the SMH and the DRAM stocks were up. We look at DRAM, which is memory. Let's see how it's doing today. I have not looked at it, but it's up 3%. Okay, there we go. Let's look at like SanDisk maybe. Yeah, up 5.5%. So these are the names that are ripping and roaring today. And like I told you, until that happens, this was not going to happen. We weren't going to see this new high bubble right here. And it happens. So now we see that new white high bubble. That is the new high. All right. What do we look for? How do we trade this? What do we do? Any retest that holds is buyable. Okay. So if we retest this 29,885 down towards 30,000, that's buyable. Anything up towards this 30,433, there's a couple confluences there that I'll put out to my paid people that get my attention. So we will be watching that level very closely if we get there as a main target. If the ES breaks back below this 77.93, so as long as we retest and hold, we're in good shape. If we retest and fell, that's an opposite story. We're not in good shape anymore. We're in bad shape. All right. So keep that in mind. And that's for the bigger overall trends and the easier decisions, right? Retest and hold of that. Just call it 7,800 area, 77.93 on the S&P, and we could be okay. I'd love to see a retest there. Same thing on the Qs. The Qs, they always get very excited and take off like a wild animal. 29,885 area. I'd even say as high as about 932. But if we get a good proper retest of that 29,885 and we hold, it goes higher. If not, that first target of 30,433, which is that 618, would be very interesting spot. Let's look at SMH and just see if it's hitting any of its major levels. SMH says, yes, I'm hitting a major level here. And let me see, 596.97. It looks like we've been to, the high was 596.30. So we've missed that by about 47 cents. Or no, I'm bad at math this morning. 67 cents. That's a spot to pay attention. Over here on the weekly, we did hit the weekly 382. We hit it perfect and kind of having a little bit of a digestion period. So I would just be aware of that. The mags aren't roaring. They're just up 1%, 1.5%. These names are trying a little harder as far as pushing higher, harder. So AMD is up 2.5%. And AMD, we just don't have, we've been stuck in this channel between 500, 461. That's pretty evident right here. Why are these lines important right here? Right here. Perfect retest. Pivot 618, which is at 500. Retest at 500. Pivot. Now, do we go back to 500? Does it break out from there? Time will tell us. Time will tell us. Peak above this 618 right here at 224. Peak above. Now, does it long wick and do we come back down for a retest back into this area, or are we just going to run because there was a lot of consolidation? One thing that I touched on yesterday was, especially on this ES, I always like to see reactions from pivots where we get there and we do this number right here. We get here, we're not buddies, we're just touching and going. When we get up here and we start hanging out and becoming friends, that's never a real tradable scenario for me as far as conviction trade, because this consolidating under a pivot can break down a lot. This time it did happen to break up so far, but like I said, we need a retest to prove its worth at that 77.93. But I don't like when we become friends with pivots. Friends with pivots is not cool. What we like to see is we don't want to be friends. We're out of here. That's a great reaction to price at that point. And that's what we look for when we are looking for those good decisions that say, hey, this is a great spot. When you get here and you short it and it just hangs out, that's not what you want. So always keep that in mind. And that goes for my day pivots, my 4-hour pivots, whatever. We like to see touch and goes. We don't like to see hang out time, because then that starts making this level unpredictable. We like to see it touch and, hey, we are out of here. Kind of like what it's doing up here with that level and potentially this level. We'll see. A lot of day left, a lot of week left, really. So just keep your eyes on that. Any retest of these areas on these R1s on the NQ or the ES will be actionable, because you're going to know right away if you're right or wrong. We get down here, have a touch and take off, great, and you buy it. If you have a touch, a takeoff, and a failure, get out, but you know where to get out, okay? The Dow. This is another thing that I alluded to yesterday. Seems like they can only push one instrument at a time. And like I said yesterday, the one instrument that they can push that will matter is the NQ. The Dow does not matter as much to the ES, because when they're pushing the Dow and the NQ's not having a good day, the ES just kind of hangs out and says, well, I'm stuck in the mud. I'm not going anywhere. The Dow's only up 0.13, but that doesn't matter as much today. The ES is up almost 0.75%. Why? Because the big dog is out on the porch barking, saying, come higher with me. Right here. This is where all the, and we talked about it yesterday, this is where all the money's flowing. The AI build out, memory stocks, semiconductor chips. That's where the money is going. Okay. Until that changes, that's where the money is going. to get that to change, we're going to have some volatility, some economic issues, something that matters to this market other than, hey, the AI dream is alive and well and healthy, and nothing else in this country matters. USO, we talked about it yesterday. Let's go check on it, because we know we had that massive off the behind the scenes print at 127.44, biggest one ever. And you can see that's pretty much been the top since that print's come in. So far we are staying below that print, just to keep eyes on, because that fund tracks crude oil. And whoever took that transaction there is very aware of what their $444 million is doing today. Okay. Bouncing off the pivot with crude. We've got red candles. Doesn't look overly excited to do a lot. And like I said, you've got crude, which is down 2.5%. You've got the VIX is down another 0.5% today and just doesn't want to find any momentum. The interesting thing here is the low was right at our retracement zone on our fibs between our levels, our Fibonacci's. If you don't know what they are, you don't have to know. They're just very important levels that a lot of traders use in different forms and fashions, but they do, for some reason, seem to work out. The low of that candle was 1439, and our 382 is at 1435. So the accuracy is unparalleled by anything that I have found for levels. And if you know your levels, you know where you're right or wrong. And when you know where you're right or wrong, you can make great trades. All right, let's jump back over to the Q, see how it's doing. We love watching our crazy cousin that when you go hang out with him, you might end up in a scrape or two, but dang, is it fun. And that's what the NQ produces when you're trading it, because it makes actually kind of big moves, which as long as you're playing your levels, pivot. I said yesterday, as long as this 850 is holding and you want to be long, that's where you want to be long from. And below it, you're wrong depending on your stop loss. And yesterday we did bleed below it and have this little bleed off, start holding the 618, march back up overnight, consolidate. PPI looks good, and launch pad. So VIX is real low. Like I said, look out below. You got to be careful here. The VIX likes to go one direction from here, which is up. I'm not saying this is a market top by any means, but some volatility could start baking in. I do see a lot of people talking about the seasonality of August and September. Something to be aware of. Does it make a trade for you? No, not at all. It's just something to be highly aware of, because it can matter. It can show up at the wrong times, and then everybody after it shows up says, well, the signs were there. Well, I'll tell you what the signs are is play your levels. That's what the signs are. Play your levels. Pivot. Boom. Now we're running into the 382. If we get back to this actionable level, okay, of 29,885, and you think, well, gosh, that'd give up all its gains. Well, sure. But I'm not saying at this moment, at this second, and maybe it is at this moment, this second, I don't know. But you have a retest of 30,155 today that could be actionable as well on the weekly side right here. So if you get a retest here, it holds. Grass is green, sun is shining. Make hay while the sun shines. Okay. If these levels start to break, we got rain clouds brewing. Not time to cut any more hay. Let's wait until we can make sure it dries before we cut any more. So just watch your levels. Pay attention. That's all you have to do. And they will keep you on the right side of this market. I was wanting to look at STX as well, which is another memory name. Let's see where it's at. Up 3.5%. And like I said, as long as that dream is still burning, the belief is still there for the AI build out. I do read about AI. I use AI myself. I have Claude and Chat. I see Grok's really coming onto the scene, so I'll probably end up trying it as well. I use it for multiple businesses that I partake in, and it does a good job. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, kind of. But I do read that the AI part itself is not very profitable at all. And what do I mean by that? Well, the people that are hosting these are finding cheaper and easier ways to get you this technology in your hands, which is basically, to me, is just plugging into a supercomputer that can do almost anything. It's amazing to me, if you've used AI, and I won't go on a rant, but if you have, it can do some of the most complex tasks I want it to do and do it seamlessly. And then it can get hung up and drive you insane on some of the smallest, non-important tasks that you need it to do. Like you can prompt it every which way, you can do whatever you want, and it still has an issue understanding vertical to horizontal, things of that nature, which drive you. It's like, why don't you can do all this other stuff and you can't do this. So, but it's cool. But that part of it's not the most profitable from what I understand. So like if you are Anthropic, or you are the builders of Chat or Gemini, which is Google, whatever, the actual AI part of it is apparently not profitable because they are already gouging prices and speeding things up. It's just like computers or TVs, right? Remember when a TV was however much money to get a flat screen TV on your wall? Now you can pick them up for pennies on the dollar, you know? And that's kind of how it's going to be to plug in to these supercomputers, but they have to build those supercomputers. Basically data centers, right? They have to build all this stuff out and have room for everybody. And that's the place where all this money's going. They got to have the chips. They got to have the memory. They've got to have a lot of that stuff. So I know a lot of construction guys that are working 7 days a week on data centers, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 2 12-hour shifts, and working like the world is on fire. But I also know a guy named Dave, which is me, when I was a young man, 20 years ago now, that worked construction during the 2008 financial crisis. And I remember this very distinct. Just had our first child, had our own place, and we went from working 6 10s. Okay. We were doing 4 subdivisions. I put in underground utilities. So water main, sewer main, storm drain, developed the roads, all the drainage, put in all the water pipes to the houses before any houses were built, right? Got the roads ready, graded. And we were doing 4 subdivisions in one county that had 400 plus homes in each one. And we could not work enough. And that switch flipped in one day to where we were working 6 10s to where, hey, you're going to have to go find another job because residential has fallen off a bluff. So I always think about that when I think about the things that we have going on as a country. And that's why I always say, as long as the AI dream is alive and well, that heart's hammering, we'll be in good shape, because that money will keep flowing and everything keeps roaring the right direction. As soon as, and maybe it never does, but if any thing gets flipped, that script gets flipped on its head and something changes rapidly, it'll go from these people lobbying to keep data centers out of their town and getting rid of city councils and mayors because they are trying to allow them to come into their town, city, whatever, annex land, do all this fun stuff, to wondering about their 401k and if they need to go find a different job or if they're going to retain their job. So the American dream is always running on full blast. We've always figured a way around everything. And that's why Warren Buffett always says, don't bet against America, because when the odds are all stacked against us, kind of somewhat like they are now, the yen carry trade, all the wars going, the energy stuff, don't bet against them. Don't bet against America, because they have a way of figuring things out and making things work, right? That's what's made us who we are as a country. All right, enough of that tangent. Let's get back to trading. But I do remember the 08, because I was in the thick of it, and all of a sudden, boom, life changed in a hurry. I did get a job very quickly, thankfully. I was only laid off for like 2 days, I think, and I went back to work on a commercial job doing commercial underground utilities, which was actually kind of a better job. So I was fortunate. A lot of guys I know weren't that fortunate, and ended up struggling through for a little while. So I just will sit here today. I won't sit here. I will monitor it off and on, but I know my levels, the retest levels that I would be wanting to action if I wasn't already long and have runners on. And that's what I would be trying to think about if we have those levels. Do I want to add at those levels? Do I just want to hold what I have? So this 29.8, just call it 30,000 area. If it retests, that's what I would be looking for on the Q, as you can see. And that's why I add these levels. Why are we stalling out right here, right now? That 382 retracement between my main calculations, which is a Fibonacci number 38.2. You don't know what those are, you can look them up. They are intriguing. It's an odd numbering system that a lot of things use. I don't know if it's because it's fancy or what, but doesn't matter to me. All I know is when I put them on my chart, they help me trade. So 38.2 is at 30,224. And as you can see, that has been the headache rack. Currently, can we get a retest of 155 even? Time tells, long day, right? And you make those best decisions when we get there. As long as that level holds, you know you're right. If not, next down, right? Here we come back down towards this stuff. And was the Q overzealous today? And our SMH and those names going to run out of juice? We don't know. I know they're running out of juice right where they should right now. But like I said, this is a kind of a similar example, even though it's only a 15-minute chart instead of a 1 hour. We get up here and it's a headache rack, but we're not here and taking off. We're buddying up. We don't like to buddy up. We like to see good reactions. Right now, all that is resistance. And it'll sit up here until it can chew through it potentially. So be aware of that, because the higher SMH goes, guess who else is going to go higher? The NQ. As long as the mags are participating, mag 7 in a basket. So instead of going through individual names, let's just look at them. Up almost 1%, still below the weekly pivot, above the monthly pivot, trying to sit on the support at 68.28. If that starts breaking down, you know the mag 7 is breaking down. If the mag 7 starts breaking down, we go back to the same old story that we've had, where the steam will run out, the Q will sit here and chop, because memory names and semiconductor names will hold it up as long as they're green. And then you'll probably see a Dow start to pop. Maybe tomorrow into the end of the week, because tomorrow is Friday. So, and right now it's not trying to pop. So where does the steam run out, or is this just the beginning? We don't know, but we do know this. This is our levels on the Q right here. We do know this. I've talked exclusively about this 850 and this 885. Those were levels that we had to be highly aware of. Consolidation through the night, hung out, and then boom, right here, just right off that big fancy red line. I make it red so we all know that it's important. Where are we finding resistance? Right here. 382, 30,224.17 to be exact. VIX trying to get positive on the day. And when I say positive, 0.0 or 0.27% so far. You can watch the VIX. That means some people are starting to buy some protection here. Will it continue down? Of course it can, but it looks like maybe just a little bit more of protect. The higher this thing squeezes, I would suspect the more put buying you will see, just to protect positions and buy a little insurance on people that are long, or that people that are looking to just short the market. They will be jumping in there thinking that we are closer to a top than a bottom. But it's amazing how well these levels work. If you want the levels, all you have to do is let me know. I'm going to send out the link again today. I've had several questions on where to buy them, and people are wanting them on their screen. Like I said, toss only. So Thinkorswim has to be the desktop version. So you can download the desktop version on any laptop or desktop computer. And as long as you have that, I can get with you, get you the link, get it downloaded, and I can help you make your charts look however they want, because I've navigated TOS for 15 years now. And if you're new to it, it's a little bit, there's a lot to it. It's one of those things where you absolutely do not like TOS at first, but once you learn it, it's the best tool I've ever used. You can, because you can do anything with it, but it just takes a little time to learn those metrics. But I have 70 people that are 70 years old that use it every day and know how to navigate it pretty well. So that is a plus. Google, I talked about it yesterday. It was the one that wouldn't go underwater. Not the highest push, only up 0.7%. So just kind of meh. It didn't go down as much yesterday, so I figured it'd have a little better rebound. NVIDIA is only up 0.2%. So you can see these outliers that really, really had those massive moves. And let's just pull them up on a yearly chart and I will show you. Let me hide this study really quick. And that way it'll be a little easier to see this on a 1 year, 1 day chart. Here we go. So you look at NVIDIA there, it's kind of been choppy in a range. Look at MU. Look at that run on MU from 335, which I think to 1200. So this first little pullback, and I say little, from 1255 to 740. This is a massive run, right? From 300 to 1200. And that's not a lot of days right there, because each candle is a day. These are the ones that are kind of gaining their breath after, you know, basically a 50% sell-off. They're trying to catch their footing and see where they actually pan out. I think SanDisk was another one that had the same style run. Yeah, so it come out of this 560 to 2300. And you heard that right, 560 to 2300. And then from 2300 went to 1,000, lost 1,300 points, and now it's currently up 400 points. These are some of the names that are adding fuel to this fire. I don't know how hard STX ran, so we can say it went from about 460 to 1,100. So these were the names that just caught fire flames and people can't get enough of. And like I said, that's a great thing as long as that script doesn't change. And that was just like, I'll reference it again, the 08 housing market when I worked in it. It was the real deal. We couldn't work enough hours and do enough things and build enough houses fast enough, all up until the moment that it all went kaput. And not saying that's what's happening here at all, but that's just something to be aware of if you are being a part of this and thinking, man, it won't slow down. It can't, it's not going to. That might be right, but just play it level to level and you'll know you're right. 260 on AMD to 584. Didn't run quite as hard. Let's go look at TSM and see. It'll probably be more like NVIDIA, just a little less wild, a little more structured of a stock. Had a run, we can call it from 360 to 479. It's only 100 points, but you can see the ones that have really, really shined. And SanDisk is a prime example of that, because when I say it went from, let's call it 700 to 2,300 even. I don't know that things typically move that way. And that was not a long time that it did that, because it started that in April and by June it was there. April, May, June. So 3 months, we tripled. Oh, you got to love it. That's where I'm saying the belief is. That's where the money is. That's why the Mag 7's been irrelevant. Things like that have really influenced that market. So keep those things in mind. The VIX says, hey, we're not scared of anything. The ES is having its little day here where it popped above. Now can it just retest and hold? That retest is oh so important. The Q, of course, oh crazy cousin. He always gets bent out of shape and runs higher, faster, farther than more civilized things. So it's not doing them. It's up 1.2%, but that's where the money's going. And I told you when the money went there, the ES would go make those new all-time highs. And that's exactly what we did. Dangerous Dow, down 38 points. And that's also what I talked about yesterday. Typically it's tech a couple days, and then it's the Dow a couple days, right off that weekly pivot too. Beautiful. I don't trade the Dow much, but looky, right off that weekly pivot, right off that weekly pivot. Well, tomorrow will be the Dow's day, and the tech just kind of hangs out and basks in the sun, probably. The Dow will be up 200 or 300, 400, and the tech will just kind of chill out and hang out and chip around and chop. And that's what you look for. That's what you realize this market does, and you start learning those metrics. And then, like I said, something will change. Used to, Mag 7 was all that mattered from 18 to, I'd say, even 04. Mag 7 was hot fire flames. Now we're on to something different. AI, hot fire flames. That's what I'm saying. We always find a way. What'll be next? I don't know. We'll have to see. They'll start preaching about something, saying that this is the way. Is it SpaceX? Maybe. Let's go look at SpaceX. SPCX, maybe? I don't look at it much, but let's take a look. Weekly, I don't even have enough data on it because it's brand new to get a good look back. So your pivot's 134. I know it went above IPOs. So I read that. Is that the new thing? We're going to float everything in space. What I've always found with the way America loves to invest and where the money goes, the more of an unknown that it is, so the more of a mythical creature, right? The more they love to flow that way. Remember how crazy Tesla used to be? Man, Tesla was insane. It was a mythical beast. Oh, it's not just a car company. It's a power company. It's a whatever company. Now it's an AI company because they, self-driving. And it was so mythical to people that they just couldn't buy enough of it. Well, it's kind of lost its appeal right now. Now it's SpaceX. We're going to have data centers in space. That might be right. I don't know. But I know one thing. Us retail traders and big investors in America love, and I mean absolutely love, to chase the mythical beast that is. So keep that in mind. Another name I have seen getting a lot of attention, which I do not trade, is Netflix. Seen a lot of big name players adding it to their portfolio right off the weekly pivot. Nice little inverse head and shoulders and pop higher with tech right now. But that is a name maybe I'll cover and in my paid subscribers with the major targets. And we'll just see, maybe there's a yearly target there that it's bounced off of, a quarterly target that we can leverage and take some smart trades there. Because I know that it has been beat up quite a bit. And if I go look at the yearly chart, this is what I mean. Beat up quite a bit. High was 126 down to 65. If I throw my yearly pivots on there, we will see what those major levels look like and where we can make an actionable trade that makes sense. All right. With that, I'm done for now. I'll be back. Love talking about this market. It's wild and it's unpredictable. But what is not unpredictable is our levels. They are marked on the chart. They're color coded for a reason, and they mean important stuff. Red above bullish to targets 30,647. This 400 area is a confluence on the monthly. So that will be, to me, a big area. And we've got a level right there on the monthly that I just showed you. That will mean a lot. I will be paying very close attention there. And we'll see how everything else trades. All right. Until then, as always, we will talk soon.